Hey everybody, Low Carb Keith here. I'm back in my kitchen, and today I'm going to make another delicious low carb meal. My meal that I'm going to make today is a spaghetti squash and chicken casserole. Now, I was looking for recipes just this week, and I discovered a recipe for, it's called Keto Spaghetti Squash Alfredo style. And it looked really good, but it was pretty complicated. It's like 2 pages long. And I said, you know, I think I can make that a lot easier and a lot simpler and a lot quicker than what they've got. But I'm going to use the basic principle of what they did. So first of all, what I'm going to use is I cooked a spaghetti squash today. And if you've never done that before, it's really easy to do. You take a spaghetti squash, you cut it in half, scrape out the seeds, and then you place it, the half face down, in a pan of water of about an inch thick or an inch deep, and you put it in the microwave for 15 to 20 minutes until the shell of the spaghetti squash gets soft enough where you can pierce it with a fork. Then you take it out, you let it sit for probably 10 or 15 minutes to cool off because there's a lot of moisture in there and it will burn you if you're not careful. Do both sides, and then you just you let it drain because you want to get as much moisture out of the spaghetti squash as possible. So that's one thing that I did. The other thing that I did is I cooked some chicken thighs, okay? I just baked them, cut them up, and put them in the refrigerator until I was ready for them. So today, it's really easy what we're going to do. We're just going to assemble this casserole now that the chicken and the spaghetti squash is already cooked. And we have some cheeses, and we also have some Alfredo sauce. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our spaghetti squash. Like I said, it's been draining, so you want to get as much moisture out of there as possible. And you put it in a pretty good sized bowl because you want to kind of break the spaghetti squash up and kind of get it sort of in strands like spaghetti as much as possible. And then next, we're going to add our chicken. And this is quite a bit of chicken, but that's okay. We're going to add that in there. It's all chicken thighs. I like chicken thighs. Okay, and kind of get that mixed up as much as possible. And then, let me talk about Alfredo sauce for a second. You know, this recipe that I got had a big old long list of instructions on how to make keto Alfredo sauce. And to be quite honest, Alfredo sauce is pretty keto to begin with. This is Bertolli Alfredo sauce, just plain. And it has 2 carbs per serving, and there's 7 servings of that. So there's only 14 carbs in this whole bottle of Alfredo sauce. So we're going to add the whole bottle because that's a big mess of spaghetti sauce and chicken that I put in there. So we're going to add the whole bottle, or jar, I should say, of Alfredo sauce. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is, rather than put all of the cheese on top, I'm going to mix the cheese up inside. So it will be inside the baking dish. And now we want to make sure that we get all of that cheese, all that spaghetti squash, all that Alfredo sauce really good and blended and mixed up. Because what we're going to do is we're going to put this in a baking dish, and we're going to bake it for probably about 20 to 25 minutes. Because you want, even though the spaghetti squash and the chicken's already cooked, you want that Alfredo sauce to heat up and for those flavors to really meld together and blend together. So let's get it good and mixed up before we put it in the baking dish. And I've preheated the oven to 350 degrees. So it's ready to go. And this is a really, really, really low carb meal. The spaghetti squash has a little bit of carbs in it, but not a lot considering, you know, a serving size. The chicken doesn't have any. the cup of cheese that I put in there probably has 4 carbs in the whole cup. So, all right, so there we go. Let's get our baking dish, which I've already sprayed a little bit of oven spray. And we're going to dump this in there. Okay, like that. And also, when you bake it, it's also going to dry, hopefully, dry that spaghetti squash out just a little bit. Okay, so now we've got that in our baking dish. And you can probably hear my cat in the background wanting out. Spread that around just like that. And now, for the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take about a half of a cup of Parmesan cheese and just spread that on top. Not a lot, but just enough to give it a little bit of crust and cheesiness on top. All right, there it is. That's what's going in the oven, and that's what's going to go there for about 20 to 30 minutes maybe, depending on how it looks. So we're going to put this in the oven, and we'll check in on it in about 20 minutes, see how it looks, and then hopefully we'll let it cool off a little bit and give it a taste. All right, so my spaghetti squash and chicken Alfredo bake is been in the oven for about 20-25 minutes. So let's take it out and let's take a look. That looks delicious. It's still a little moist, but we're going to take some of it out, let it cool off. Oh, you can tell that good cheesiness to it. And we're going to take a taste of it and see how it turned out. It looks really good. So there we go, see? Okay, so here we go. Let's, it looks good. We're going to take a taste, see how it turned out. That is delicious. I was afraid that it hadn't been in the oven long enough to keep it warm, but it did. It warmed it up right through. That chicken, that Alfredo sauce, and the mozzarella cheese mixed in with it. Can't beat it. It is absolutely delicious. This is an easy casserole dish. It is, once you fix the spaghetti squash and once you cook your chicken, you saw how easy it is to just assemble the whole thing, put it in the oven, and let it heat up. This is a big mess of food. Like I said, you could probably serve, if you were serving this for dinner, you could probably serve 10 or 12 people with this dish. I am going to put it in the refrigerator, and I'll probably have it for dinner most nights this week. And if my wife wants some of it, there'll be plenty of that for her too. So this is it. This is my spaghetti squash with chicken Alfredo bake. And it is low carb, relatively so. I would think that there were probably, with the Alfredo sauce, the cheese, and the spaghetti squash, probably 6 carbs per serving. which is not very much at all. So, and a serving would probably be about a cup. So anyway, there it is. I hope you get a chance to make this. This is quick and easy and really satisfying. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We'll be back in about another week with another low-carb recipe.